Welcome to Betting Weekly Live. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Rory Jiwani. Now, Rory, you may well remember this, but you might not. But the last time that we worked together, I say worked together, spoke with each other, I think was at Lingfield races maybe 10, 12 years ago. You won't be too surprised to hear I was a little bit worse for wear. I think you were on duty that day for a former employer. Look, we were with the late, great John Myers, who was great fun. It was his birthday on the day. We had a great time at Lingfield. And I've known you on and off for quite some time. So great to reacquaint myself with you. How are you?
I'm very well, Dan, and a pleasure to be with you once again after a long absence. We've both got a bit less hair than we did back then. But I think we've aged quite well. I think we've done okay.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking about doing okay, obviously you are our senior tennis handicapper when it comes to the women's game, and you're doing more than okay on Tuesday with some very nice advices on the show. So it's been a good US Open for you so far, I guess.
It's been mixed. I mean, we had a couple of good picks, but a couple of not so good picks on it was Tuesday, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
I can barely remember what day of the week it was. It was. It's been okay. It's been, it's one of those where it could have been better, could have been worse. I mean, I had a shocker a couple of days ago with Paula Badosa, who was my outright pick and my pick to win her quarter. And she lost the first set of her quarterfinal against Emma Navarro. And then after that, she was 5-1 up in the second and then just dropped the lot. It was pretty horrible viewing. And Navarro won 6 games in a row, and she's into the semi-final, which are tonight, the semis. So that was a big, big blow. It's been a tournament where we've seen a lot of surprises in the women's event, and
we'll get to the 2 semi-finals in just a second. I just want some reaction from you, Rory. I know you talk mainly about the women's game, but obviously from a British point of view, Jack Draper's win yesterday was unbelievable. There was some sizable wagers as well from American bettors with Bet Rivers on Jack on the money line ahead of the action, an $11,000 play at plus 110, and in play a $20,000 play as well. So there's a lot of confidence behind Jack Draper. I mean, certainly from a British and English point of view, this is a big story, Jack getting through to the semi-final, isn't it?
Yeah, who'd have thought so soon after Andy Murray's retirement we've had a British man in the Slam semi-finals. I mean, the draw has fallen apart for him, not unlike for Emma Raducanu 3 years ago when she won the Women's US Open. Carlos Alcaraz was in Draper's quarter. Of course, he crashed out to Dutchman Botic van der Zandschulp in straight sets. Draper hadn't met a seed until de Minaur, the Australian, Alex de Minaur, yesterday. When I was on Tuesday, I opposed him now because he's had a hip problem since Wimbledon. He almost pulled out of his second round match. He played on. I thought he'd lose against Jordan Thompson on Tuesday night, but he won 3-1. But the hip gave out last night. It probably was a matter of time before he fell. You can't play. Even we saw Novak Djokovic at Wimbledon. He got to the final, but when it came to it, he couldn't produce because of his knee. And with de Minaur, it was his hip gave out, and Draper went through in straight sets. Draper now he's got a very tough ask against Yannick Sinner, the tournament favourite. But it's a great effort for him to reach the semis, and hopefully he'll reach more in the future.
And before we get into the outrights, the latest futures when it comes to the women's singles, just a reflection on Swiatek's defeat. Obviously, one of the tournament favourites. There was some significant money around for Swiatek on the spread. She gave up 4.5 games. There was a significant wager of over $3,000, which lost, and there was some support for Pegula. With some decent money as well, a $2,000 bet. How surprised were you that Swiatek crashed out at the quarterfinal stage?
I was quite surprised, I have to say. I mean, the last time they met was in Cancun in the WTA finals, in the final of that tournament in October, and Swiatek won 6-1, 6-love. Faster conditions here, but not ridiculously fast. I mean, I thought the conditions would be slow enough for Swiatek to win reasonably comfortably. But yeah, that's the thing about sport. And you can analyze the court speed, previous matches, head to head, everything like that. But ultimately, it's about who puts it together on the day. And Pegula played really well. Swiatek didn't. She was well below her best. In the first set, she only made 36% of her first serves. I mean, even if you're the best player in the world, that's not going to cut it. She was broken in each of her first 2 service games. And Pegula did really well. First time, she was obviously an underdog for the match. She'd never reached a Grand Slam semi before. She'd reached a lot of quarterfinals in the past, but she got it done. The conditions, they're not, as I say, they're not lightning quick, but they are quick enough to help her and hinder Swiatek slightly. But I think it was more just a case of Swiatek not playing well on the day. I'm not even sure the conditions contributed too much. Her serve didn't work, which had been working really well. And Pegula's through.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. And one or two of our comments suggesting that the surface is certainly not her best. Let's get your thoughts on the futures, Rory, as it stands at the moment. We'll get a line on each of the 4 semi-finalists and talk our way through the market. As you can see here, Bet Rivers go -143. Aryna Sabalenka is the favourite. Jessica Pegula, second favourite at +325. Karolina Muchova plus 500, and you can get 9-1 about Emma Navarro. I mean, Sabalenka, Rory, I'm saying she was favourite at the start of the tournament. I mean, is that a value play now, even though it's minus money? What are your thoughts on the favourite first up when it comes to the outrights?
Yeah, she's not a value play now. I mean, she was the rightful favourite at the start of the tournament, no doubt. I thought she was a little bit short, personally. She's won 2 Australian Opens, but she's never won another Grand Slam. She did come into inform. She won Cincinnati, of course. I thought she had a couple of obstacles. She did get a decent draw. I'm still a little bit wary about Sabalenka. Last year, she should have won. She lost in the final to Coco Gauff. Still think there's still scope for something to go wrong. When she loses it a bit, when she's not completely on her game, the serve starts to fall apart. See, one of our viewers got Sabalenka at +200. That looks a really nice price now. But, she can, when the pressure's on, fall to pieces. She hasn't done it a lot lately, but she has done it in the past couple of years. She should be favourite, and she's so short because Swiatek went out. I think everyone was expecting, or most people were expecting Swiatek to meet her in the final. Now Swiatek's gone, she's a much shorter price.
In terms of the crowd, because she said after a win in the quarterfinal that, she'd buy everyone a drink if she could get them on side. She's taking on an American, of course, in the semi-final. And you referenced that Coco Gauff game from 12 months ago when, she wasn't happy with section of the crowd. Is that going to be a factor again, do you think, for her semi-final? We'll get to the semi shortly, but just in general, is that just a little bit of a question mark about her ability to get over the line in the US Open?
I think she should be experienced enough to deal with that now. She's, it's not the first time the crowd have been against her. Obviously, after Ash night crowd in New York, it can get a bit lively, but
Nigel's come back home now, so it's probably not going to be as lively as it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think she'll be okay. I think she'll be able to handle it. It's just, sometimes the pressure gets to her if she's up against an opponent who's playing very well, and if her serve's not quite on. And that's the thing with Sabalenka. That's usually the first thing that goes is her serve. She starts serving double faults. She starts missing that first serve, and things can go awry pretty quickly. She can get it back together. So last year in the semi-final against Madison Keys, she lost the first set 6-love. And she was a breakdown in the second and managed to come back. And when she's in the groove, she's unstoppable. Not even Swiatek can stop Sabalenka when she's firing. She hits the ball harder than anyone else. But there's just a little question mark over her, especially if she gets to the final. I don't think she'll have too many problems with Emma Navarro in the semi. We'll look at that more in depth in a bit, but it's not a price I'd be playing.
What would you play if you had to have a bet, if I give you a free $100 here, we've got Pegula plus 325, Muchova plus 500, Navarro plus 900. When we look at those prices now, if anyone's not had an interest and looking to get involved at the semi-final stage, where might be the value of the other trio?
I'd say Muchova. And I know anyone that's watched the Betting Weekly WTA podcast knows I'm a big fan of hers. She's got a wonderful game, great variety. She reached the French Open final last year. She suffered terribly with injuries in recent years. She's back fit and she hasn't dropped a set yet, nor has Pegula for that matter. She's playing so well. She's playing probably the best tennis of her life. I actually opposed her on Tuesday against Jasmine Paolini, just because I thought Paolini was a big price at plus 140, but Muchova dropped her serve early on, was brilliant after that. She was excellent in her previous 2 rounds. The winner to unforced error count has been very, very good for Karolina Muchova. And yesterday against Beatrice Haddad-Maia, she was excellent again. She looked to be suffering from a bit of a stomach complaint in the second set, but didn't cause her too many problems. Won the first set 6-1, second 6-4. Another excellent performance. And I just think her variety in the way she plays gives everyone problems. Wouldn't say she's unique, but she has a style that not many people have. She does play serve volley occasionally. She uses a sliced backhand. She mixes up her shots really well, and her forehand's working beautifully. I just saw a message there, someone saying about picked up a knock. As I say, I think that was an illness rather than injury, because I saw that yesterday and I thought, oh, not another injury for her. But she was getting tablets, I think, and she went off court a couple of times. It looked to be more illness than injury, so fingers crossed that's the case. But at the odds outright, I think she's the one, and she beat Sabalenka in the French Open last year, and I think she's beaten her before. I think she's got a great chance, really do, and I think $5 is not a bad price.
So that's the futures, the outrights. Plenty of comments coming in regarding the semi-finals that are upcoming tonight. Of course, Nichelle says Navarro handicap, maybe a set perhaps, or over on the games. We're going to talk about that semi-final. First up, Rory, Navarro against Sabalenka. First up, of course, at Flushing Meadows. They'll be on court around about 7 p.m. Eastern. In terms of the win market, Navarro, obviously the outsider, plus 350, Sabalenka minus 455. On the spreads, it's a 4.5 game start for Navarro here at minus 107, with Sabalenka minus 113. And the over and under total here is 20.5, with unders the favourite at minus 103. Where might be the value here, Rory, when it comes to that Navarro-Sabalenka clash? Do we go heavy on the favourite? Do we play the spread? How are you tackling it?
Yeah, I mean, you could say Navarro's been a bit fortunate to reach this point. 2 matches ago, she was against Coco Gauff, the defending champion, and Gauff served 19 double faults, which is just not going to help. And she had 60 unforced errors, so that's definitely not going to help. Navarro targeted Gauff's forehand, and that paid dividends. Against Badosa in the quarterfinals, as I said, Badosa 5-1 up in the second, fell apart. Sabalenka's had a bit of a wobble early in the tournament as Ekaterina Alexandrova. She's been much better since. She did have to save 8 break points against Elise Mertens, but in the last round against Qinwen Zheng, she took her apart. Very comfortable victory. I think there is a scenario where Navarro wins this, and the odds tell you it's not a likely one, but she does make good players look bad, and she moves really well. Her forehand's a weapon. But if she makes Sabalenka play the extra shot, that's the key to this. If she stays in the rallies and Sabalenka gets a bit nervous, as I say, she can make those double faults, she can make errors. We could have a match. I mean, they've met twice already this year. Navarro won the first meeting at Indian Wells, 6-2 in the third. Sabalenka won the rematch at the French Open, 6-2, 6-3. Interestingly, at Indian Wells, Sabalenka won the second set to draw level, but then her serve deserted her. She won just 3 out of 14 points on first serve. And that's my doubt about Sabalenka. When the pressure's on, sometimes she just doesn't quite have it. Her game just falls apart. I mean, Navarro's been the underdog in her 2 previous wins. She's a big underdog here, as we've said. My concern is that the conditions, I think, are just about quick enough for Sabalenka to hit through her.
So just to say, Rory, is it a sort of thing, can you spot that in the opening few games if Sabalenka might struggle? Is this one where you might want to, yes, get some bets down ahead of the action, but in terms of in play, there are certain things you can spot with Sabalenka's game that could give you a value play after watching the opening 2 or 3 games or so?
You could. So after sort of, 3-4 games, you can see if Sabalenka's on it. You can see, she's hitting those winners. No one hits more winners than Sabalenka when she's on song. She hits the ball harder than anyone. And, if things are going for her, you can usually tell. Sometimes it takes her a little while to warm up. That's the only thing I'd advise with the in-play. It can take her a little bit of time to warm up, and then suddenly she's hitting winners left, right, and centre. But Navarro's one of those players that, if she's in the match, she's in it. She's a bit of a dog fighter. She really goes for it. And she's quite canny as well. So against Goff, she targeted the forehand. I mean, Badosa fell apart in that last match, but Navarro contributed. She just made her play the extra shot. And that's what she's got to do with Sabalenka. If she can do that, she does have a chance.
I'm gonna push you for a play on the game. Let me just tell our viewers where the money's been going here. On the money line, 80%, 86% of the cash is on Sabalenka and 80% of the tickets. On the spread, 82% of the money on Sabalenka, 52% of the tickets. I guess that stands to reason. The over and under, 75% of the money, 52% of the tickets on the under here. And we've had a $2,500 play on Navarro on the money line. That's been the most significant bet so far. So if pushed on this first semi-final, Rory, what are you betting?
I'm going to avoid all the main markets because I'm just not sure how it's going to go. We do have some nice stat bets. And one that interested me was Navarro over 1.5 aces at plus 130. Because Sabalenka can give up quite a lot of aces. Perhaps that's because of her size. She finds it difficult to readjust when the ball's about to go past her. But there was another one which, anyone who's watched the pod, or listened to the pod with me and Nigel, I always try and go for plus money bets. I'm not a fan of minus money. But the one I like is most aces, Navarro plus 3.5. And that's minus 114. In this tournament, Sabalenka hasn't covered minus 3.5 once. Even in round 2 against Lucia Bronzetti, the Italian, who's not a big server, and Sabalenka won 6-3, 6-1. She had 5 aces and Bronzetti had 2. So she didn't cover it there. And Navarro is very athletic, so she doesn't give up too many aces. The match starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be fairly cool. I think 21 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. It will get cooler, so conditions won't be especially fast. I don't think Sabalenka is going to serve too many aces here. I don't think she's going to cover that 3.5. So Navarro plus 3.5 at minus 114 is a bet for me here.
Let's take a look at the second semi, which comes up a little later, of course, this evening. Jessica Pegula against Karolina Muchova. And when it comes to the money line, Pegula is the favourite here at minus 167, Muchova plus 140. The spread, as you can see there, with Pegula giving up that start to Muchova, who gets 2.5 games at minus 109, the favourite minus 112 Pegula, so almost each of 2. And then the over and under 22.5 games is the line, minus 122 under, plus 102 over. I mean, you've already set your stall out here, Rory, to a certain extent, talking about Muchova as potentially the futures play here. So I guess we're going to probably side with her against the favourite Pegula. How do you see this second semi?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. But they only met a few weeks ago in Cincinnati for the first time, and conditions were faster, so that probably favoured Pegula, who won 6-2 in the third. But I think Muchova's playing much better here. I think she's playing the best tennis of her life. Weather will be even cooler because it's second match, so conditions will be slower. And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Pegula. She is the favourite. She's got the home crowd behind her, but obviously, that's a double-edged sword at times. And Pegula's, this is her first slam semi, whereas Muchova has been to a slam final before. Incredibly, neither woman's dropped a set so far, which is quite incredible at this stage. I've got two bets I like here.
Go on.
I like Muchova. I think plus 140 is big. I'm not going Nigel. You've probably heard about the Nigel Seeley auto fade. If someone has a big win, then go against them in the next match. And there's an element of that for Pegula, having beaten Swiatek. She might not be quite as up for this one. And one advantage she had against Swiatek is that Pegula hits it flat, and Swiatek's got quite an exaggerated preparation for her forehand, a bit like Coco Gauff. So if someone's hitting it flat and hard, it gives her a bit less time to get in position for that forehand. And that's where Swiatek struggled. And Pegula talked about sort of changing direction and making it difficult for Swiatek there. Whereas Muchova should be better able to adjust to that. She's such a good shot maker, and she's got such a variety of shots. She ran her close in Cincinnati. She's playing better here. So I do like Muchova at plus 140. The others are stats bet. Total aces 6.5 looks too high to me. Talked about it will be at night time, so conditions will be slow. Pegula has served 6 aces in 2 matches so far, but both of those were in the heat of the day. She didn't serve an ace against Swiatek yesterday, and that was at night. Muchova has served more aces, but again, it's in the heat of the day. When they did meet in Cincinnati, which was in the heat of the day, I think it's Pegula served 3 aces and Muchova served 5. So it's going to be less than that here. It should be less. And Cincinnati, the courts were quicker as well. So even if it goes 3 sets, I think under 6.5 aces at minus 114 looks a steal. So I'm actually going to go for a parlay with Navarro plus 3.5 aces in the first match and Muchova Pegula under 6.5 total aces. And that's plus 253, the parlay, which makes it a bit more interesting than 2 minus odds bets.
It does. It all depends how you play. In terms of the money that BetRivers has taken so far, 55% of the cash on Muchova, 66% of the tickets on Pegula. The spreads, 59% of the money and 64% of the tickets on Muchova. And the over and under, the vast majority, 87% of the stakes are on the unders here. 39% of all game tickets are backing Pegula to win, incidentally. So interesting the way that the market is shaping up. We'll get Rory's best bets for you when it comes to those 2 semis in a second, even though we've heard Rory's thoughts on those games. We'll pin him down for a pick of the semi, so to speak. This is the UEFA Nations League card that I'm just going to rattle through for you before we wrap things up. It is match day 1 of the UEFA Nations League, incidentally. If you're looking for 1 or 2 trends when it comes to these games, 25 fixtures, the last UEFA Nations League in Europe, only 10 home wins, and there were 1 or 2 surprises away from home. Denmark beat France away, Norway beat Serbia, Austria beat Croatia. Don't shy away from those big plus money picks. And Hungary beat England at home, admittedly, in Budapest. And international football generally, we talk about under 16 of the 25 were unders for match day 1. So that's something to consider if you're looking at 1 or 2 of the fixtures over the course of tonight. Just want to touch on 1 or 2 of the games as well before we wrap things up. Serbia-Spain is probably a big feature for many. And the BetRivers traders have reported 95% of the money line on Spain and 98% of the tickets on Spain as well. One of the reasons here we believe, or certainly I believe, is that when it comes to Serbia, they are shorn of an awful lot of good players. For one reason or another, they've been pulling out left, right, and centre, whether it's through injury or illness, or if you're reading between the lines, because they don't want to play for Dragan Stojkovic. He's still in charge after they got knocked out in the group stages of the European Championship. So like Savajevic is missing, Mitrovic is missing, Milinkovic, Savic, Velkovic, Maksimovic. Tadic isn't there as well. So some big hitters that would usually be in the starting line. And it means that Spain have been punted into 186, minus 186 to win away from home. Serbia plus 550. I mean, I think you could do worse than back Spain minus one on the handicap. It's a bit of a James Easton bet, this one, because all you've got to do is win and you'll get your money back, 2 goals or more, and of course you land it. They're around about even money minus one on the Asian line. I mean, Rory, you're in Spain at the moment. You're resident in Madrid. I mean, there's a massive feel-good factor around Spanish football at the moment. They're not just winning the European Championships when it comes to the men's, but all the junior sides seems to win as well. I mean, what's the feeling like there at the moment when it comes to Spanish soccer?
Yeah, they feel a bit unstoppable at the moment.
Yeah.
They beat us in the Euro final. And funny enough, for the match tonight, Rory is suspended.
Yes, he is. That's true.
Because UEFA gave him a 1-game ban for chanting Gibraltar is Spanish after they beat us.
Yeah, Morata as well, wasn't it, who's got banned for that, so he's not playing either.
So, they're the reigning Nations League champions, European champions. I think they're the best team in the world at the moment, aren't they? I mean, where I live, it's all about Kylian Mbappe because he's turned up at Real Madrid. And he got off the mark at the weekend. But, I mean, Spain should win, shouldn't they? And I'm a bit surprised Stojkovic has stayed on because, usually, you go to a major tournament, don't get past the group stages. That's usually the end for a manager, isn't it? And they've kept him on and he doesn't sound very popular.
Well, it's not. The players just don't want to play for him. I mean, it's interesting that Rodri isn't playing for Spain and likewise Morata because of that ban. But when Rodri went off in the European Championship final, of course, Spain replaced him. Was it Zubimendi that came on and did brilliantly? Oyarzábal as well. The Real Sociedad boys were fantastic. There's so much strength in depth. And when we reference that Nations League win, the last renewal, well, the likes of Yamal and Williams weren't even in the squad then, so they are very much improved. Just time enough to talk you through a couple of the other games before we wrap things up with Rory's best bet on the tennis. Portugal, as you can see, they're minus 182 to beat Croatia, who are 5-1. This is another game where Bet Rivers have taken an awful lot of cash on the home team. 97% of the money on the money line has come for Portugal, 70% of all tickets. They were brilliant in qualifying for the European Championships. They won 10 out of 10. They scored 36 and conceded just the 2. Croatia have still got some good players. Kramaric is in good form, incidentally, for Hoffenheim. But I think Croatia are going to struggle. Both teams to score no could be a decent play there. And Scotland against Poland. Again, we've seen some interesting money here for Scotland. 50%. 57% of the cash for the Scots, 64% of the tickets for Poland, and 61% of the money on overs here. Scotland, again, were really good in European Championship qualifying. They, of course, beat Spain. They've got a really good home record. They have only lost 3 of the last 14 home, and Poland have only beaten the Faroe Islands in 90 minutes away from home in their last 8. So Scotland plus 150 or Scotland draw no bet might be the way to play it. And just a couple of other matches to mention there you can see on the slate. Interesting to see that San Marino are plus 295 here to beat Liechtenstein. San Marino haven't won an international game for 140 matches. You've got to go back to April 2004. The last time that they won was against Liechtenstein. I don't think it's going to happen again, though. Liechtenstein are plus 115. And have a look at Luxembourg on the draw no bet or the double chance. Luxembourg tie at minus 103 against the Northern Ireland side that have struggled in recent years. Plenty of cash on not just the Nations League, but also some of the World Cup qualifiers. We've had a $2,500 bet on Argentina to win at least one half at minus 500 against Chile. That's a short price bet. And we've also had a $1,000 bet on Argentina to beat Chile under 2.5 goals at minus 105. That game is 8 p.m. Tonight. Plenty of comments coming in regarding the football. Byron Morrill reckons that Spain minus 1 on the handicap plus 105 here in the US looks good. And Shakespeare, our resident better when it comes to American sport. Los Angeles Angels against the Texas Rangers, under 8.5 runs, -125. He likes to throw in a play on the live show. So if you fancy anything on any of those, Mandeep likes Scotland versus Poland, both teams to score as well. Then let us know in the comments, of course. We've got this on replay for you as well. There's plenty of sport tonight. Rory, before we let you go, we need your best bet. You rattled through some parlays, some prop bets, some futures, and some money line plays on the tennis. If you were to advise one play on the tennis tonight for the women's singles semi-finals in the US Open, what would it be?
I think it's going to be that stats parlay on the aces. So Navarro plus 3.5 aces against Aryna Sabalenka, with under 6.5 total aces in the match between Karolina Muchova and Jessica Pegula, and combined odds is plus 253.
Plus 253. Keep you interested for the two semi-finals tonight, hopefully. Rory, thanks for your company. Nice to catch up once again. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Live. Don't forget, Nigel and Sean, of course, will be talking you through when it comes to the men's US Open via the Game Bet and Match show. Look forward to that over the weekend when the final comes around. The live show is going to be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, with Steve and RJ. For today, though, from myself and Rory, it's goodbye. We'll see you next time.